And good afternoon again. Welcome back to our Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee meeting of November 18th. We're live streaming on YouTube, and we have no closed session items to approve, so we will move on to our next agenda item. And I thank all of you that are online for joining us or staying online when we had that one item. So we're going to move on to the community agenda, the agenda item, which is Community Safety Unit Q3 report, timely, and we'll move that over to, I'm going to pass that over to Grant.
Thank you. Through the chair and to the committee, the report before the committee today is the Q3 2025 CSU Community Safety Unit report on TSHC safety activity. This is a part of regular reporting that the committee has received from the CSU each quarter so far this year. And these updates are focused on similar reports that are provided within TSHC and to their committees. I'll just highlight some of the details in the report. So total calls for service noted in the report for seniors in Q3 were 2366. That was slightly down from just over 2,600 in Q2 of this year. And they noted that was due to less trespassing and alarm incidents. In terms of proactive work, there are some details in the report about things like what the community safety advisors work on. And the community safety advisors, we have 2 of those assigned to TSHC from the CSU. The report highlights the community safety unit patrols. They were a total of 84 in Q3. This was actually down from 179, so significantly down in Q2 for Q3. And the CSU noted that that was due to lower staffing levels available to do the patrols at than previously. There's some information in the report on things like tenant engagement activities, things like tenant visits, safety audits. I will note, and it's in there, but there's been a total of 14 SEPTED or safety audits of buildings that have been done so far in TSHE buildings this year. And that's something that we work together with the community safety unit on, and they work with tenants and staff to do a number of buildings each year. The total crimes against persons was noted as 28 in Q3. That's similar to what the results were in the previous quarter. Total crimes against property were 98, which is down a little bit from 104 in Q2. And they did note that with regards to some of the crimes against person category, a lot of that was sort of focus and activity in limited communities. There are some details on the violence reduction program that are noted in the report as well as third-party security, which I know is always of interest to the committee as well. It does note the 6 Toronto Seniors Housing buildings that currently have third-party security assigned to. And then quickly and I'll just flag, one of the things we're doing within TSHC is continuing to work with the CSU on validating data that they have collected with regards to different types of calls and different inputs, really in terms of prioritizing the needs of different buildings, looking at vulnerability and incident measures. And ultimately, this is going to be used to inform the development of some community safety plans in higher priority communities, and ultimately a broader TSHC community safety strategy going into next year. And in past, we've had the CSU join us for this item. However, going forward, and at this time, they're not here. And but we'll take any questions and do our best to answer them now or bring back answers to the committee.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Thank you for the report. I don't see any hands. All right. Well, we will continue to have these reports and noting changes and areas of development. As we've mentioned previously, safety continues to be actually one of the highest priorities for our tenants, and so we want to keep an eye on that and make sure that we're actually doing everything possible to make our buildings safe. So thank you for that, Grant. So that we will move on. I don't think there's anything that we have to approve there. We're going to move on to the next item, which is our operational dashboard.
Sorry,
this is the dashboard.
Linda.
Sorry.
Chair,
Yes.
Jess has a question, or has his
Oh,
hand.
sorry, Jess. Go ahead.
To the chair and committee, I did want to point out, perhaps I'm misreading it, but it said that there were 40,000 calls in the tier 3 area, which equated between 8 to 10 calls per day. I'm not a math major, but that doesn't make any sense. Someone explain?
Thanks for that.
Through
Good
the
question.
chair and to the committee, would you be able to point out where you're referencing the 40,000? And maybe I apologize, off the top of my head, I'm not recalling that particular number.
I can't get into my pages where I was making notes, but I can send that to you, Grant.
Yeah.
Sure.
When the meeting finishes, I can send you that.
Yeah, we can certainly follow up on that and make sure there's a clarification. That number would certainly not reflect the number of calls in TSHC.
No.
And
This is all CHC information or CSU stuff. So it was CSU, and there was something like 70,000 calls, of which 8,900 were violence related, and then another 20,000 were something else, and then tier 3 was 40,000, which equated to 8 to 10 calls per day. And that's just me and my faulty memory trying to mimic what was on the piece of paper. But I'll find it for you. It's in the CSU report.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, Jess, we can certainly look at that once you've got that and assist in following up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe let the rest of the committee know too. I can't find it either. I'm just scouring it too. But go ahead, Jim. Did you find it, Jim? Go ahead, Jim.
I'm concerned about the success of the streets to homes. Has there been some way of tracking like the success of that have been achieved from doing that?
So through the chair and to the committee, I'm not sure. I might ask if anybody else in the TSHC, Brad might have more insight into kind of how streets to home or how the sort of the helping homeless individuals with being housed in TSHC. I know through the rapid rehouse that may have a connection there. So I'll ask Brad if you could maybe assist. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair and to the committee. The rapid rehousing program, Jim, we've brought reports to QTech in the past with regards to it. I'm happy to bring another report forward. It is something that we meet with the City of Toronto regularly on, and we've adapted the program since its inception in order to learn lessons from it. And the program at this time is considered a large success. In fact, Grant and I attended TSHC, Tenant Services Committee, to talk about the successes that TSHC had with the rapid rehousing program.
Great, thank you.
Great, and thank you for those. Those are really good comments and questions. Thank you for those. We'll put that on the action list and make sure that we get something back to you, Jim, as well.
I'm going to jump in to the chair and the committee. As an addendum to what Jim is talking about, I note that between 5 to 10% of all homeless people are veterans. This being November, I'm hoping that the Streets to Homes program, although it may fall under the purview of the Ministry of the Federal Department of Justice or whatever, that seniors who are veterans are also being taken care of.
Great, thanks. That hasn't come up before at our meetings. It would be interesting to actually even at maybe next year, knowing what's happening in our buildings on any veterans and many family members that have been impacted as well. So thanks for that, Jess. All right, so we will add that as something to keep an eye on. We're now moving on to our next item, which is item 12, and it's our operational performance monthly dashboard. And for those of you new to our committee, we take a look at this. We've tried to actually refine it and add things that come up so that it's our kind of our snapshot at each of our meetings on what's happening month to month. So over to you, Brad.
Thanks, Linda, and through the chair. This is the overview of the operations dashboard, provides an overview of how the corporation is doing with regards to collection of arrears, renting vacancies, maintenance work orders, and pest management, which will be addressed in the next report. Arrears stayed flat. What the corporation really does focus on is that dark blue section and getting people into the managed where they're receiving help from the senior services coordinators in order to maintain their tenancy and ensuring that green bar that you see in that top left graph remains as small as we can get it. And those are tenants that we haven't engaged with yet, but we will be shortly. Next slide. Provides a little more detail with regards to the status and the dollar figures and the month-over-month trend of how we're doing with regards to our arrears collection and our collection of outstanding rental charges, as well as files that are being managed through the OACH process and have been through OACH, as well as gives an overview of the number of tenants that are in the ACP, including different various stages of the legal process. Next slide. This gives the committee not only the current vacancy numbers, but as well as how those units are sitting. So to Jim's earlier comment, if you look at line 3 of the graph, you'll see that it's rapid rehousing. It's the number of people that were housed through the program through the program month to month. And it's a year-to-date accumulation of it. On the right, provide the committee with a list of reasons why people are vacating TSHC. Unfortunately, most of them are moving to either supportive nursing homes or supportive environments, or have passed away. I will say that in the current month, the vacancy rate has dropped below 1.7%, and this is measured against the 2% that the City of Toronto expects TSHC to maintain as a vacancy rate. The next slide, please. Annual unit inspections. This is kind of a time-limited thing that we report to the committee on, just some of the issues that we're flagging when we're going into units and we're inspecting all the units. This kind of relates to the deputation that we had at a previous meeting, when one of the things our staff are looking for are things that look out of order. So unit takeovers and that. This is one of those opportunities that we have to identify those sorts of situations that the AFRC committee heard about last month. When tenants don't feel comfortable coming forward, we're just looking for things that are out of the ordinary and kind of don't belong in a seniors housing, as well as some of the other issues that we're addressing as we go through and meet with tenants and inspect all the units. Next slide. Maintenance work orders, performance of the staff over the last few months with regards to their completion of work orders, total number of work orders that are received, as well as the completion percentages. Provides the committee with an overview of the type of work that not only our staff are doing, but that we're having to contract out to various vendors over the course of the month. Slide, please. Administrative tickets. These are requests that tenants have put in through our senior services coordinators or our tenant services administrators. Again, most of them, 56%, are handled or are currently handled by the SSCs who are located within the buildings. And the vast majorities are tenants seeking help with regards to their annual review or document requests to ensure that their rent is calculated properly and that they're able to maintain their RGI tenancies. Pest control, while this is an overview, the next report will give a lot more detailed information. So if it's okay with the chair, we can address the pest control numbers when we get to the next report, but happy to take any questions on any of the slides.
Any questions from others? Thanks for your comments, Brad, about the annual inspections, because I think that that's an interesting opportunity from the last board meeting when we were talking about things that aren't looking right. I guess my question is, who goes in particularly if there might be some concerns that are beyond the physical space. Who goes in on those visits, and how do you actually kind of ask if there's things that maybe aren't as obvious, but that a tenant might need some help with?
Yeah, great question, Linda. Thank you. So through the chair, the annual unit inspection process is a joint process between the 416, so the superintendents of the building, who are looking at more of the maintenance things. The kitchen faucet dripping, the toilet running, are there issues with water penetration around the window? Is the smoke detector working? Well, the SSC is in there, and they're trying to engage with the tenant if the tenant is home during the process. And if not, they're making some other observations with regards to if there's a level of clutter in the unit, if there's a requirement for some housekeeping where they may need to support the tenant with a referral to a PSW service, things like that. The overall inspection changes year to year based on different focuses. Currently, this year's inspection included a lot more information with regards to accessibility modifications that have been made to units, and ensuring that we had a good handle and that people were receiving the accessibility modifications that they needed to continue to reside in their units.
That's great. It's an interesting opportunity, maybe even in training, to add a few questions that actually just might be things that actually are around personal safety. Just a thought, because it's such a great opportunity. But any other questions anybody had on that? Thank you for
Yeah.
the
Jess,
dashboard.
Jess
Go
has
ahead,
his
Jess.
hand.
Yeah, for some reason I don't see the hand, so I apologize, Jess. I need all. It takes a village. Go ahead.
Yeah. To the chair and the committee, one of the things that was brought up at our coffee club yesterday was how units are offered and assigned to people who are disabled. Some units are being offered, which are handicapped ready, to people who don't have disabilities. And so the question was, how does this get moderated, or how is it prioritized? The people who are disabled are offered handicapped units that have been fully equipped for their needs.
Yeah, great
That's
question,
a great
Jess.
question.
Thanks. Through the chair, the units are all offered through the centralized process that's managed by the Housing Secretariat's office. So they use a system known as Rent Cafe, which is a new system that was implemented about 3 years ago, where tenants receive information from TSHC based upon the units that we have available. They match the tenant to that unit. So your point, Jess, they would indicate people on their housing connections or Rent Cafe application that have identified as requiring an accessibility modification. They would receive those units for offer, as opposed to receiving regular units that would have to be modified. I would say that we have a robust accessibility program at TSHC that we do operate in conjunction with Toronto Community Housing. And anybody who's inquiring about needing a modification, or if their unit's not suiting their medical needs, their senior services coordinators can help them with the paperwork, with the accessibility request form. And we would do the intake for them, and then we would modify their current unit if we could to suit their accommodation requirement. And if not, we'd find them another unit within the portfolio that would fit their need for whatever their particular accommodation is.
Right, that leads me to my second question. Thank you to the chair of the committee, which is moving from one facility to another. I know that there is an issue about having ready available units for transferring from one location to another, or even from one service to another, i.e. TSHC or TCHC to TSHC, or to some other organization like Wood Green or long-term care. Accessibility for this and transparency to allow people to do that is an issue. And it's going to be further exacerbated, I believe, if Bill 60 goes through regarding landlord-tenant board. In a previous meeting, I had asked about how that might impact Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation and TCHC, and whether or not we would be exempt. But recognizing that if people are then evicted on a more regular basis or have rent increases that are above their means, that there'll be an additional pressure on TCHC and TSHC to provide accommodation.
A few questions there. I'm not sure, Grant or Brad, if you're able to talk about the first question, which is how do actually people get transferred, and I don't think we track that transfers across buildings, do we, in our dashboard? It's an interesting question, Jess, but Brad?
Yeah, through the chair. So Toronto Community Housing, Toronto Seniors Housing, there is no opportunity to transfer between the two providers directly. Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation only processes what's known as crisis or accommodation transfers. So if somebody is a victim of domestic violence, if they are fleeing an abusive situation, if they have been a victim of a crime perpetrated by another tenant, there is an opportunity for them to apply for a crisis transfer. We do have staff that evaluate those transfer requests and work with the tenant in order to find a new location. Any other transfer between providers is done through the City of Toronto, and it's going back to that centralized rent cafe system operated by the Housing Secretariat. So if a tenant wanted to transfer, say, from TSHC to Wood Green, and they were an RGI tenant, or even if they were an affordable or a market tenant, they would go back to the rent cafe system and they would apply for that transfer through the City of Toronto. There's no direct method between the providers.
And Brad, if somebody needed more of a disabled apartment, would that be accommodated, or would the modifications be made in their apartment?
Through the chair, if we can make the modifications in their unit, we do. Unfortunately, structure sometimes limits that as an option, and then we work with them to find another unit within another building. We renovate that unit to meet their accessibility requirement, and then we would work with them to transfer them to that unit. But that would be done through the crisis process.
Thank you. All right, and go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so through the chair to the committee, I do think around Bill 60 we should come back to the committee or the board with just. I think we also have a commitment around Bill 10, which is another one. So I think those are two pieces of legislation where we can provide the committee or the board more, kind of a better line of sight on what is contained within those bills. I mean, what's going to be very interesting is how they are interpreted and enacted, across the system. But so I think that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. We could talk to Fareed about having something on board agendas because we're not all on the same page in terms of even the understanding of these new bills. So
No.
having something that says something to look out for that is, legislation and what we're doing about it. So thank you. So we'll get back to you on that one, Jess, as we're all learning what the impact will be. All right, thank you. I don't think that Jim's hand or anybody else's hand is up. So we'll get on to the next item, which is always something that people look forward to, which is our pest management report. And I noticed, Brad, that you've gone a little bit more in depth in this report. So over to you.
Thanks, Linda. So through the chair and to the committee, today I'll provide an update on the pest management activities and outcomes for 2025, as well as outline some of the changes that we're going to make for our work plan in 2026. So we understand that pest control remains a significant concern for tenants, and it impacts their quality of life. And despite some of the improvements we've been able to make, including the quality improvement project and the creation of an environmental health unit, issues still persist with pests within our communities. Right? At the board's direction, we developed a more comprehensive strategy using data and some best practices. There's some current state data that's provided. It's really been through changes through the home system, which is the platform we use for tenancy management and vendors, that we're now able to track this. Previously, we were unable to do this. And it goes to something that the committee said a while ago, that I think it was Fareed that might have said, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. And we now have the ability to measure it, so now it will get done. The overview, so January to September, there were over 5,700 units treated. However, 1,700 of those units required multiple treatments, either for the same pest or for a different sort of pest. We've provided some pest types. So we know that 16.8% of our pest control relates to bed bugs, whereas just under 20 relates to cockroaches and 5.5 relates to mice. We've identified some regional trends where our southeast region and our southwest region have higher infestation rates than the north ones, which kind of to be anticipated just due to density, as well as the presence of kind of more mass transit systems that lead to the spread. Yeah, so 30% of our units that we treated needed multiple treatments. And I think that's something that we really want to address and ensure that when people are treated, that they can have they have a sound mind and sound understanding that the issue has been resolved for them and that they shouldn't be reinfested. So some of our key challenges that the report outlines is our vendor and non-compliance with preventative maintenance. There's a section in there that deals with that are 38% of the audits that our environmental health unit have done with regards to the vendors that are assigned failed, right? The vendor is not addressing the situation. They're not performing the contractual service that we're looking to get. The report talks about some of the credits that we get, which seems to be the current way that we're addressing it through Toronto Community Housing. But what that doesn't address is the added infestations, because yes, we're not paying for the service that we didn't receive, but we really do need that service in order to limit the spread within our communities. We also have common areas that suffer from the same sort of situation where the contractual obligation of the vendor isn't being met. We're managing that. It's Toronto Community Housing's vendor, and we're working with Toronto Community Housing in order to manage that and in order to receive the service that we're looking to get from their vendors. We also have to deal with the tenant stigma as far as reporting pests and self-identifying their pests that they have, as well as a lack of preparation of treatments. And then we have to address our staff performance. The data is showing that we've had a very inconsistent application of what we call block treatments, which is inspecting all the surrounding treatment units once we do find pests in order to prevent migration. Otherwise, you just end up chasing the pest through the unit. What we're looking to do and what we've been trying to do is more of a block treatment where we seal the pests in from the outside and treat from the outside in. Our work plan for 2026 includes reduction of treated units. So right now, we're looking at 18.4% of our units are receiving pest control this year, and we're looking to cut that down to 15%. And the one thing that we're really looking to do is to cut the buildings. What we've been able to do with the changes to the homes platform is identify developments where more than 20% of the units have been treated for pest control. And those are the places that we're really going to focus on, as well as cut multiple treatments in units from 30% down to 10. So how are we going to do that? We're introducing some mandatory staff training with regards to the vendor obligations. We're also going to be providing them with a tool through the Microsoft platform that I'll show later that will allow the superintendents to inspect after the vendor has been out and then to provide their feedback back to staff. Again, it goes to that point where we receive the credit, but we only have 4 techs inspecting 83 buildings across the city, as well as working with tenants in Toronto Public Health. So we're going to teach all the superintendents what the contractual obligations of the vendor are, and then we're going to give them an avenue to provide feedback to staff so that we can manage the relationship with the vendor through Toronto Community Housing. One of the other things that we've been able to work on is through our Power BI platform. We've developed a live pest management dashboard. Previously, we were reliant on the vendor invoicing in order to see what was treated where and if the treatment actually happened, or if it was canceled, or if it was a partial treatment or a complete treatment. That information is now available real time and live to our supervisory staff as well as our building staff, as opposed to have to wait to the vendor invoice and the reconciliation for that to happen. The other thing we're looking at is, so through the training, through the different avenues such as Senior Speak, our posters, and our tenant town halls, we're going to do some more tenant education. We have included portions of our town halls with regards to pest management and how best practices to prevent infestations and keep yourself safe from infestations. We're looking at expanding that out and making it much more of a full communication strategy with regards to this issue that our tenants face. We're looking at providing our tenants feedback channels so that they can then tell us about their experience in receiving the pest management support, the level of support that they either received from our staff, the vendor, or Toronto Public Health, who we partner with. We're looking to expand our partnership with Toronto Public Health. They do have a bedbug team at Toronto Public Health that will assist residents in preparing their units and helping them with the preparation, as well as walking them through the treatment cycles. And we've increased our budget for our ability to prepare tenants for pest control up to $150,000 in the 2026 budget year. So those are the kind of the highlights of the report. Happy to take any questions from any of the other information within it.
Questions? Yeah, I was a little concerned about the vendor. I know that this has been an item that our board has been concerned about in terms of the accountability that the vendors take, and I do hope that there's an opportunity to change that a bit in terms of the quality that we're getting from our vendors, and I know that we're regularly reviewing who our vendors are and the accountabilities, but that was kind of concerning.
Yeah, through the chair, happy to walk you through the tool, Linda, that's going to allow the staff to feedback into that.
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
So what we've done is we've developed a Microsoft form survey that will be sent out to each superintendent the day after they receive pest control services from the vendor. And what we've really done is tailored this survey to form based on the contract. So the staff will be required to identify the vendor, the date of the service, and then monitors are a crucial part. Monitors are placed within various areas within the building, and their intent is not to eliminate pests, but is just to demonstrate a need for further treatment. So if the monitors aren't being checked, then we're not sure if those 5 bugs that are in the monitor are from 6 months ago or if they're from last week. We're really going to get our staff out there and get them to inspect the monitors, inspect the I'm trying to think of the name. They gave me the name rodenticide, and what it is it's placed around the building in the garbage rooms. When we inspect them, oftentimes we find that they're empty. They haven't been addressed. They haven't been refilled in some time. We're going to have the staff look at all that, investigate the storage rooms, rodent stations, whether they're clear and in good order. They provide comments. Gel is a common insecticide that's used. Has it been applied? And then at the end, the staff are given the opportunity to rate the vendor on a scale of 1 to 5, as well as if the rating is lower, if there's something they'd like to further discuss, they can request a call that day from the environmental health unit techs that are assigned to the tech that's assigned to that region, where they can follow up, send pictures, elaborate on issues that they're having with the vendor. So the intent is that all this information will feed back. Because it is a Microsoft form, it ends up in Excel, which will allow us to provide the QTech committee with greater level of reporting with regards to how our staff are actually evaluating the vendor on a daily or monthly basis when they're coming out to their buildings.
Thank you for sharing that and for the development of that. Jim, did you have a comment? Oh, you're unmute.
No, I was just doing a thumbs up.
Yeah, no, that's good.
A great way to get this under control.
Great, thank you.
To the chair and the committee, a question, Brad. The toxicity of the treatments, in as much as we're dealing with vulnerable people who have multiple challenges, many of them, how toxic are the treatments and what opportunities are there to provide alternative housing for a short period of time for respite so that their unit can be sort of come back to normal?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Jess. And through the chair. So all the chemicals, everything that we use is, and it's one of the things, they're all improved by Environment Canada, and we do follow Environment Canada guidelines on them. When people do have different ailments, there are alternative methods of treatment. we've been working with a product that was recently approved called Apprehend. It's actually a fungicide that naturally occurs that creates a barrier for pests that we've been experimenting with in some of our locations where tenants can't vacate the unit for the 4 hours that they're required to be out. And if you have respiratory, you're looking at 6 hours out of your unit. In extreme cases, due to health related issues, and we have been able to use heat treatments where we actually seal the unit and we bring it up to a temperature and then maintain that temperature for the required length of time in order to kill the bugs just through the use of heat. It's not always an option for us. It's very limited as far as how many floors you can be off the ground and things like that. But we do work with tenants as well as their workers in order to get them out of their unit for the required amount of time. As far as alternative housing, Jess, the maximum is 6 hours out of the unit. And if somebody was required to leave for 6 hours, we would work with them in order to find them a place to go, and work with them on some food and make sure that they're taken care of during the treatment time.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you. So we will continue to, and I'm sure that if Councillor Crisanti was here, he'd have a few more questions, like when are we going to get to zero? But I'm sure he'll be in touch with you. So
I messaged Brad that he dodged that bullet.
yeah. So we'll make sure that if he has any questions, that he gets your direct home number, Brad. Thank you very much. Yeah, and no, kidding aside, this is actually something that is really important, and I think that multi-pronged strategy that you're developing in terms of helping people also with the stigma is really important. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item, which is going to Grant this time, and it's our strategic directions progress report, and we regularly report on this as well. And over to you, Grant.
Thank you, Linda, and through the chair and to the committee. So before the committee is the Q3 progress report on our strategic directions. As noted, this is our standard report. There are two attachments on the report. One is the dashboard view, and this dashboard, I'll highlight a few pieces on the dashboard. That is also publicly posted on our website. And then there's also the second attachment, which is an overview of the actual strategic direction roadmap and some of the initiatives and projects that were on the plan for Q3 of this year. So from the dashboard, a couple of updates, and they somewhat overlap with some of the things you've already heard, so I'll just be very brief. The housing occupancy rate for Q3 was 98.23. That exceeds the 98% target. Unit turnover was 73 days, which was slightly up from Q2, but still on average with the sector. Arrears management showed strong rent collection rates. On tenant engagement, and there will be an update in more detail on this coming up later because there's another item on today's agenda, but there were 68 community activity fund applications approved in Q3. Around $94,000 was distributed through CAF, and there were 60 events held or hosted as well with tenants, and those, as we know, are very important over the summer period, a lot of barbecues and celebrations. In the programs and partnership space as well, there were 352 recurring programs noted in Q3. That was up from 293 in Q2, so that's a significant increase quarter to quarter. There's a section on the dashboard about community safety incidents. We went over that in more detail already in an earlier item. There's a pest management quadrant on the dashboard, which Brad just went through in more detail as well and was on his dashboard too. So I won't go into any more details there. From the employer of choice perspective, and some of the highlights there, we did have our successful all-staff event on September the 16th, which was noted there. The inaugural IDEA committee, the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Committee was held, and I know more discussion on that was also at the most recent CGHRC. Several training initiatives were completed on turnover, staff turnover and staff vacancy. There are some updates noted on the dashboard, and they're in a good place. On the roadmap in attachment 2, there were 10 activities or projects planned for completion in Q3. 5 of those were completed as planned. 5 of those have revised timelines. A couple of examples, things that were completed. The development of an annual capital plan with Toronto Community Housing was completed. The 2026 budget was drafted. The translation and interpretation policy, a big policy item, was approved. And the new internet was completed, and that was also demoed at a recent other committee meeting. Things that were revised include our governance best practices standard, which is in development right now, a key performance indicator, a review for TSHC, which I can advise, although it wasn't completed in Q3, it is on track to be completed this quarter. The SharePoint reorganization, a big project internally within TSHC, which is now essentially completed, and a job description review. So at this point, I'll take any questions. This will flow through to board for the next board meeting as an item for information.
Thank you. And yeah, our committee actually is kind of the lead on the strategy, and this is a key governance activity as well. So it goes to the board, and we will be engaging in some more strategic work. But it's good to see all this work underway. Grant, thank you. I don't see any hands up, so I think oh, go ahead, Jesse. I see your hand. You're on mute, Jess.
Sorry to be a bit of a bother to the chair and the committee.
You're not a bother.
Of the total number of people who work with TSHC, what are the hiring practices and how many people are over the age of 59?
So through the chair and to the committee, that information is not part of our dashboard, but I can ask Carol. This probably is something we'd have to take away for a follow-up. But Carol, would you have any more information?
Thank you, through the chair. No, I don't have that information off the top of my head. So that is something that I would have to get some data and bring it back. I guess my question to that is there something specific that you're looking for with regards to your question?
I'm looking for equity, the equity lens of what are the hiring practices, and how are people who are over the age of 50 encouraged to apply for jobs with TSHC. There's been some comment about the CSU employing people who live in buildings, and I think this might give an opportunity for part-time work for people who live in buildings to become security people or go-to people. It's also part of a larger plan for health checkups, etc., that I've been discussing with Tom and Deanna. So there are a number of aspects to this.
Okay, so through the chair and to the committee, Jess, I just want to confirm that from a CSU perspective, TSHC is not hiring CSUs. So is your question specifically around CSUs or around other staffing issues?
Other staffing issues.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, and maybe Carol, I'm thinking that like a broader, like at another meeting, and maybe at a board meeting, just actually as we do the profile of staff. For me, it would be interesting to see also the long service staff that we have, actually having attended many long service events, and there's a lot of people that actually have stayed on for a very long time, which is really nice to see too. So you do see that, but perhaps a breakdown of that would be great at some point. So thanks, Carol, and thanks for the questions, Jess. You're bringing that seniors lens, which is great. Okay, we're going to pass it on at this point to community programs and partnership update, and we do have a deputation, and I think Bill is Bill on the line, Karen?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Great. Hi, Bill. You just were in my last swears. Thank you for joining us. You don't really need any introduction, and thank you for sending us some the pre-reading material as well.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Mr. Hunter and members of the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on engagement, partnership, and communications. I have, as you know, in the past, I have raised issues with aspects of the Community Plus model, and I've expressed repeated concerns about what I perceive as a diminishing scope of tenants' voices in the process of this new model. one of those items was, when this first came out, was the issue about that said there was no tenant leaders. And that has been going around a number of times. And I thought it was pretty clear that leadership is needed in buildings in order to make things happen. The problem is that at the ground level, that's not always acknowledged. And that some tenants, I hear from other tenants, it's frustrating that they do things and it's not acknowledged. Another thing that in the implementation table, was never a clear conversation about what a tenant circle is, and what it represents and how it functions in the buildings. And so last year, about this time, at the implementation table, we had a couple of meetings about what a tenant table is. And that is, I think, item number 2 that was sent. And so that was, and what you saw was in the notes that were provided at the first meeting of this year for the implementation table. That vision or that understanding of what a tenant table is, or a tenant round table is, or doesn't comply. It doesn't fit with the understanding that we came up with, because the only thing that tenants have an actual voice in is what they're going to do with the CAF funds and what type of engagement they may want for the upcoming year. And that's one meeting, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for tenants to have this meeting to decide these things. Now, it's, how can CSCs take on this kind of responsibility for all of these things that are going on, and be able to keep tenants satisfied? So, I mean, and this is where there's a problem with, why aren't tenant leaders recognized? Because they're the ones who do the work in the buildings that try to pull people together. And the idea that we started off with, that this is supposed to be a collaborative effort amongst everybody, somehow tenants once again are being left out of some of these conversations, and not having an adequate voice, particularly at the building level. And I outlined how the CAF plays out in tenants' minds, about how staff are in control of the process, staff control the money, staff manage and oversee the work and the effort of the volunteers. They're in charge of the tenant circles. Tenants do the work. Tenants are the volunteers. They have no leadership. And if they don't volunteer, they get no CAF funds. So, I mean, these raise some questions. But there are other models. And I think if we can get together and think about, like, the Saranac Circle, our roundtable, it's from a vision of tenants and how they are involved with all of the different agencies that are involved in the integrated service model. And I think that, that maybe that's a perspective that we can start looking at, instead of from top down. But I know, it's hard because there's not enough funding to supply the staff that are needed. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Any clarifying questions? I'm hoping that Deanna might be able to also provide some response to Bill. Bill, you're consistent, and we appreciate that in terms of the engagement, true engagement of the tenants. I don't see any hands for questions, so I'm going to ask Deanna in her report, and maybe you can make some comments in terms of efforts that we're making. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I'm just gonna say Jess has his hand up.
Great, thank you, Jess. For some reason, I'm not seeing the
see
hand.
that either, Linda.
I thought Deanna
Or
would
you're not,
respond
okay.
first.
Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
Deanna would respond, and then I would ask the question afterwards. I applaud you, Bill, for your presentation. It's very concise and certainly reflects the experience that we have here at 717 Broadview. We do have a very engaged group of people through the coffee club, which is part of the CAF program. So I would suggest that coffee or meetings that have food involved will be a way to encourage leaders, and people will fall into roles based on their own interests.
Yeah.
Self-interest is always a motivating factor to encourage leadership to come forward. So that would be my comment in terms of how to encourage leadership.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. And I know you're going to add a lot to our committee as well. All right, I think I'm going to
Chair,
pass.
Tom Hunter has
Yeah.
his hand raised.
Tom, go ahead, Tom.
Yes, through the chair to the committee, I do, just in terms of a comment, I do think through Deanna's presentation, some of this will be addressed. You will see the kind of the use of the CAF fund, but I do think that we need to be absolutely clear on whether it requires on like some further work with STAC, or bringing back some information to this report. But the CAF is not a staff controlled process. So I know and so we can, I think that's important, because the Community Connect Plus is built on the participation, the collective participation of tenants who want to be present to help to make those decisions. So every time I go to a building, I take a list of what was their CAF allocation, what the tenants have identified through the CAF, and what we have helped them to deliver. So I just want to be clear, because our mandate is about tenant support and tenant activity, and around the CAF fund, it is not staff controlled. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, and it sounds like Deanna's going to also address some of the points as well in your report on community programs and partnerships. Thanks.
Yes,
over to you.
I think so. Through the chair to the committee. Yes, I'm happy to start if that's okay with folks. And thanks to Bill for his deputation, and I appreciate our continued conversations. So thank you again. So through the chair to the committee, I'm happy to provide. You have been given a written update on the work of my entire portfolio. So first, I will begin this presentation on community programs and partnerships, and my wonderful manager of communications, Wendy Dobson, will join us for the next item to provide an overview of the wonderful work happening in that shop. Grant provided a wonderful segue with some of the overarching outcomes of the community programs and partnerships team. And you will have noticed in the written update provided to all of you that we dove a bit deeper into some of that information and provided related, but some additional metrics and details about the work that's underway. So in both presentations, I want to start by noting that you would have seen that in both the first few pages really articulated how I'll speak for community programs and partnerships here, how community programs and partnerships ties in to Toronto Senior Housing strategic directions, followed by a description of our shared team purpose and objective statement. So when I joined the organization 7 months ago, which is wild to say out loud, I've spent some time over the last few months learning and working directly with the team, hands-on in some sessions, to come together on that shared purpose. We all knew it, we all felt it, but we found it really important to document that. And I thought that was really grounding, at least for me, as I make these updates to all of you as the committee. So now I will jump into some of those relevant updates. So in terms of tenant engagement, the Senior Tenant Advisory Committee, or STAC, from our perspective remains highly engaged. We've had an 83% average attendance rate. This is focusing on meetings that have taken place up to and including Q3. The Q4 report will come. But we've had an average of 83% attendance rate with our new larger membership of about 24 folks. Most of our attendance is in person. We certainly have some virtual, so we run a fully hybrid meeting. And that input from STAC continues to be critical. And you would have seen in the presentation, we have been getting their feedback on key issues recently, like the tenant experience survey, and the deployment of that, the 2026 city budget, and recently the report led through the partnership table around aging at home, best practices and opportunities. So that committee continues to be a really important avenue for Toronto Seniors Housing to gain tenant insight, feedback, and support our decision making as well. In terms of our regional tenant volunteer meetings, those are also seeing some great momentum. So we had 107 tenant volunteers in Q2, and we jumped to 136 in Q3 with our most recent meetings, which were held in late July of this year. So we had a 27% increase in attendance, which has been a trend. We've seen more and more volunteers showing up, which is really, really important for us because we know that those meetings are a really important opportunity for information to be shared that volunteers can take back to their community, but also hear from them on some of their questions, their considerations, their concerns, so we can take those back and address them. And you'll see at the meetings in both Q2, which would have been April, May, and then in July for Q3, we worked with a number of city and agency partners and Toronto Community Housing actually to have some presentations, information sessions at those meetings. Again, we heard from tenant volunteers. Taking information back is very important in this critical role that they play, bringing people together as we heard from the Deputy. The final Q4 meetings are going to be in December, and they will focus on recognition and reflection. So we've set a theme for our final meeting of the year. For the committee members, an invite will be coming your way to attend, and we hope you can join us. But we're really going to focus those December meetings on recognizing all the contributions of our fantastic volunteers. In terms of Community Activities Fund, we've approved 228 and purchases to date. We spent $90,000 in Q3 on about 60 or so CAF applications. And that includes both driving tenant-led events that are recurring, like Jess mentioned, a coffee club, a movie night, a pizza night. Those are very common. But also Q3 in particular saw a lot of one-time events. That's the summer season. We had over 60 barbecues across our portfolio. I went to a number myself, and they were a wonderful time. Celebrating Canada Day, just bringing people together in the beautiful weather, dancing, entertainers were brought in. Those were a really wonderful kind of hallmark event that the community programs and partnerships team host every year. So we really enjoyed and respected the support of our volunteers to make those happen. So those were some wonderful events. Obviously, our final push will be holiday events. Those are coming soon. Another batch of really exciting kind of cornerstone tenant-led events that we get to support here at Toronto Seniors Housing. And you would have noticed in the presentation, we mentioned, a request for more CAF funding in future budgets. We're expecting continued growth in the scope and depth of the CAF program as more volunteers join Toronto Seniors Housing Volunteer Program, as we are able to deepen our roots in more and more communities to introduce them to this process and this opportunity to, bring in priorities for their building. So we've requested about a 2.5% increase in the 2026 city budget, and our fingers are crossed that we're able to continue to meet this demand and support more tenants and tenant volunteers to realize their priorities in their community. In terms of partnerships, we currently manage 57 partnership agreements. Many are in effect until the end of next year, so they are live and still active, which is a great thing. Keeps our things organized. We support those agencies that use our common spaces. They deliver, as you all know, health, social, and wellness programs. The strategic directions dashboard gives that detailed breakdown. In terms of agency-led programming, I'll double click on that for a moment. We saw 279 programs in Q3. That's an 18% increase in from Q2, and we're continuing to grow. And that's really through not only some new partnerships coming into the fold as we introduce net new agencies to the organization, but also deepening partnerships. So additional sessions for recurring programs, tenants loving the programs they're receiving, and us working with an agency to add more recurrences of a particular class or a particular event that is happening in the community. So we're really thankful to our partners and are excited about seeing that number continue to grow with our small but mighty team. And the other measure that you would have seen in the presentation is that over 60% of our buildings have their top 2 tenant priorities met as of Q3. Right now, we are in the midst of our annual planning meetings for next year. So we're hosting them this year to look ahead to 2026. And we are going to use that insight to be able to take forward our planning for 2026. And we're really working towards increasing the number to towards 75% or more of top 2 tenant priorities being met. So we have a strong motivation on our team to continue that growth. And the annual planning meetings that are happening as we speak help us clarify those priorities and hit the ground running in the new year. We also provided a snapshot of some of the strategic initiatives and projects that we're working on to further our work. There's a long list there in the document that was provided, but some of them include directly investing in our over 300 tenant volunteers. We heard loud and clear that they want to continue to be supported with information about Toronto seniors housing, about their role, about the tenant circles, about what it means to be a volunteer at TSHC, and they want to continue to learn skills and grow their ability to support their community. We heard that loud and clear. So as part of our volunteer development project, we are working on a handbook to sort of provide that one-stop shop about what it means to volunteer at TSHC and how we support our volunteers. And we're working towards a learning day in 2026 where we would bring in other partners who have knowledge, skill sets. In some of the skills, tenants will help us understand they want to learn about and really create an opportunity focused on learning in addition to our regular regional meetings. So this would be a net new event. We're also working hard with the City of Toronto. So coming out of that motion, if we recall from the ECDC committee in April, a lot of those programs that we committed to working on together are coming to fruition right now. That includes programs with Toronto Public Health, with Parks and Recreation. So as those take place and I'm able to provide those numbers, I absolutely will. They're just live and in action as we speak. And as I mentioned, we're very much in our 2026 planning cycle. So getting ready and getting our heads around how have priorities evolved. And we've already got 2026 CAF applications in the system. So while we continue to deliver this year, we've been able to work with our tenant volunteers and tenants in the buildings to start thinking ahead to next year. So again, we can hit the ground running on some of those events, especially in Q1 when we get back from the holiday season. So you'll note, I'm sure you saw when you were reading the presentation, the final page had a small photo gallery. I just think it's important to always conclude and ground ourselves and share with you some snapshots of all the fun we get to have supporting our tenants to realize their priorities in their communities. So I kind of loved that photo gallery. They are current photos from recent events. So I'll make sure we keep that up in future reports and you get a live sort of view of that. So with that, I'm happy to take questions or focus on any element of the document.
Questions?
I don't see hands either.
Yeah, I don't.
So
I don't.
Apparently.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Jess has.
Yeah, go ahead.
Deanna, I've attended both STAC and the regional meetings, and I have seen some very wonderful presentations by Toronto Police Services regarding scams. I have seen a wonderful presentation by paramedics regarding primary health care and wellness checkups. And I'm wondering how that can be furthered to be inculcated implemented into the buildings so that more people can take advantage of them and there be a deeper relationship between these services and the people who live in TSHC.
Yeah, so
that's the first question.
Yes, thank you. Thanks. So through the chair to the committee and to Jess, great point. I think, my mind goes to two pieces. Number one, as you know from those meetings, we often provide materials at the meeting or shortly after via email because we know well and good, as volunteers have said to us before, you are a big help in spreading the information if people are able to access things or get some of what we learned in those presentations. So we're thankful for our volunteers and helping spread that word because you're the best at it in terms of volunteers and getting the word out to your communities. And in terms of, broadly finding ways to integrate those services or spread them through more of the communities or expand them, Jess is the word I will use, that's where priority setting helps. So even some of those city programs that I mentioned, you know, our ability to launch those was based on those priorities set by tenants. We were able to pinpoint what communities were looking for that type of support. So that really provides us some good guidance on how we can spread it further. So as we get those refreshed priorities, we will be sure to do the same thing this year and tap those partners where tenants want to see it.
Okay, as a quick follow-up to that, I've reached out to both of those agencies and crickets. So I wanted to, and there was interest in the building to have a meeting with paramedics and also with the scam person. I know that there have been new hires at the paramedic area with the city, so perhaps some of those people can be, because I think that's primary, is to have wellness checkups for all people who live in Toronto seniors housing, as they wish.
Yes.
Not forcing people to do it, but to have that opportunity to engage older people with wellness checkups, many of whom are isolated and have other issues that need attendance.
Absolutely.
So the second question is, you did a presentation to another committee regarding the staff facing internet program. And
yes.
I asked how many of those, how much of that dashboard could be integrated for tenants. Can you give us a brief overview of that?
Yes, so through the chair to the committee, Jess, you're wonderfully segueing me into the communications presentation where we talk about intranet. Do you mind if we segue there? And if that doesn't answer your question, we can pick it up. Is that okay, Linda and Jess? Is that okay? Okay.
I was thinking the same thing. That's great.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other
Over
questions?
to Wendy, or do you
no
want
other
to?
hands,
Madam
right?
Chair,
I'm just checking.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
excuse me. Sorry,
Yep.
before we move on, Jim Meeks has his hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jim.
I
Go ahead.
don't have a question. I just have a comment. I feel we from switching from the tenant representative to tenant circles and volunteering. I think it's been a great success and a big improvement.
Amazing.
Thanks,
Through the
Jim.
chair to the committee. Thanks, Jim, for that
I'm
comment.
glad that we chose to do that. And it's because you listen to what tenants said with their input that they'd rather have the circles.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. I don't, if I'm not missing any hands, then we'll move back to Deanna and Wendy for the communications update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So through the chair to the committee, I will pass it to Wendy Dobson to take us through the presentation on communications. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. To the chair, I'm going to see if I can share my slides. It's not looking promising. Okay, that's okay. I will talk through it very quickly. As Deanna mentioned, she's talked a bit about our strategic directions and that's been mentioned by Grant as well. And our focus, is on two major audiences, tenants and staff. Of course, we protect the external public reputation and partnerships, but tenants and staff are always our top priorities. And so I just want to highlight a few things that we're working on right now. And one of the most exciting ones, and if you look at one of the slides with some artwork on it, there's a really exciting calendar pilot we're doing called Community in Color, where tenants have provided us artwork to use in a calendar for 2026. So just to let you know, it's our first time doing it, but we had 45 tenants participate and submit artwork, 171 pieces of art with multiple mediums and representing all regions. And since I don't have slides, I'm going to do one better, and I'm going to hold up a piece that we actually photographed that we got access to today, and just to demonstrate how creative everyone is. Everywhere we go, we meet tenants who have incredible skills and talents, and the fact we get to showcase that is a true privilege, and we really appreciate that. So that show will be coming up towards the end of the year. And a few other quick updates for you. We've been doing tenant volunteer updates bi-monthly, but now we're switching to at least monthly to keep up with the items that come out in the senior strategy newsletter, to make sure that tenants can get as much information as possible about those pieces. We've been working on the email subscription list. We've met with legal around the consent pieces and whatnot, and have a better understanding of how it sits within and externally from privacy. And so we're adjusting our approach and our communications so we can launch that as soon as possible. Seniors Speak, we've had requests for 2 additional languages, so we're now up to 8 languages. And every time I get a request, I'm excited because it means more people are reading it. And that has led us to also expanding it to be 24 pages instead of 20 pages in 2026. We're working on the training for the communication, for the translation and interpretation policy. And that will be launching shortly. We have finished our consultations with staff on those procedures. And we have the welcome guide. I think that's been brought up before, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. And we did Seniors Month and Seniors Day videos. I do want to highlight some of the wonderful work that's happened with the IDEA Committee that we've been privileged to support. Of course, all the activities in June with National Indigenous History Month, Pride, Filipino Heritage, and of course, Seniors Month. And Truth and Reconciliation happened to line up beautifully with our launch of the new intranet, which launched the week before, and we were able to create a page for that for people to share their reflections, which was very exciting. And then shortly after that was Islamic Heritage Month, where we were able to have a video and a learning document and whatnot. And the IDEA Committee put together just wonderful materials. I know I learned a lot, and I know a lot of other people appreciated it. It was one of our most viewed items on our new intranet. Supporting the all-staff event United Way campaign, multiple IT projects that have been happening, including new computers. Yay! So moving on, I just wanted to highlight again the new intranet. I know it was featured at a previous session, so I just wanted to give a little bit of background on how we launched it. So at the all-staff event, we did a pre-launch to get some feedback from staff, and we also got photos of staff that we could use on the intranet so they could share their beautiful faces. We held 3 lunch and learns immediately after the launch, and we had over 100 staff attend, which is fantastic. And they were all very eager to learn. We held a scavenger hunt contest, which forced them to explore all the different areas of the website, of the intranet, and had 23 participants in that. Since launch, we've had over 100 story postings. We're averaging 2 to 3 per day. And we have about 25 to 50 unique views per post. And we've had over 20, actually, I think today it's probably well over 30 photos now, and more than 20 call outs to staff on top of our regular call out stories, where people are recognizing each other's work and sharing resources and whatnot. The app was slightly delayed, but we now have word that it should be launching in the next few weeks, which will give even better access to our frontline staff, which was always our goal with this release, to make it even more accessible. We're also working on better reporting numbers. Now that we have a better tool, we also have better numbers, which will allow us not only to report better to you, but for us to also see how it's being used by staff, what's the most popular areas they're looking for, so we can build up and improve our services all the time. And then on external comms, just a quick highlight, Deanna did a wonderful job presenting at the ONFA conference, the Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association. And that is a podcast. I recommend everybody listen to it. It was very informative, a wonderful conversation. There's Arlene Howell's Aging at Home report is on our website now. And we've been working in partnership with some of working with some of our partners on communications about their work with some tenants. And there've been a lot of great media stories lately, which is always nice to see positive in the media. And there's a new one coming out soon under the Toronto the Good series, featuring one of our tenants. So we're very excited about that. The big one I wanted to communicate on, and I'm sure this may refer to Jess's question, is we've been working on some website updates. First, we're working on by the end of the month, we will have some improvements around navigation. So how easy it is to get around to make it much more accessible. And then we are working on a complete review of all the content and how it's laid out to be much easier and friendly for tenants to use. And our goal, one of our goals for 2026 is to improve our video presence, our storytelling, to continue to expand on that, and to also expand on our partnership communications. So we want to really get that reputation up there. So I think that those are the main pieces, and I will stop there because I know we are over time.
That's okay. There was a lot to communicate. Yes, I'm hoping that that Wendy referenced a little bit at that. I think your observation that maybe we could do some more on the tenant internet or communication system. But if you want to elaborate at all, please feel free to.
I think it's going to be a wonderful tool for people to communicate from building to building and to reach out to share ideas and perhaps take some of the pressure off senior speak to share that information. I am interested also in new tenants program. We have someone who's very actively trying to build out a welcome thing. So if there is such an animal, I'd love to be able to share it with her.
So through the chair to the committee, Jess, if I understand your question around a welcome guide or an information guide, we do have a welcome guide that was recently rolled out. So we can take that offline and provide whatever information is useful. Is that what you're referring to, like a welcome guide for new tenants?
Yes, that'd be it.
Yes, we do have that. Yes.
I'd also like to offer Wood Green Communities. They had some money from the federal government last year, and we did a series of podcasts about older people and their interests that I think I've shared with Deanna and Wendy and others. But certainly that would be another option to build out a reach out with another organization, is to use that platform for seniors to be heard.
Yeah, through the committee.
That's a great idea.
Jess, I've listened to them. They're great podcasts. You shared them with me early on, so I quite enjoy them and appreciate that. We'll take that away from an external comms perspective. Thank you.
That's great. And maybe when those calendars are done, if there's a way for the board members to purchase them or something, it would be, maybe it's a good fundraising thing. So I would love to see them. So something we could do. Any other questions? Jim? Lawrence? All right. Go ahead, Jim.
I just want to apologize to everyone for leaving the meeting. I didn't leave voluntarily. My computer crashed and I have a bit of a problem getting it started up again.
Well, we're glad you're here for the adjournment, because I'm going to need you to make a motion. So Jim, we would be sitting here till tomorrow if you didn't come back. So thank you for coming back. I don't see any other hands, and I thank you very much, Deanna and Wendy, for that update. It's really exciting to see all the things that are that have been developed, and that we've got lots of things on tap. So thank you everyone for your participation. Jess, it's been great to have you, your input, and Jim and other board members and our guests. So at this point, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. I don't think we have any other items. And Jim?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Lawrence? All in favor? All right. Thank you very much. Have
Thanks,
a great
everybody.
evening.
Good job.
We'll see you
Thanks,
at the next
everybody.
meeting.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Karen, quick question. I wonder
Yes.
if is there because